Our theme this whole month is courage and protection, and looking at how we protect ourselves and how we protect ourselves in relationships, how we protect ourselves from knowing who we really are. If there are things that are landing on core deficiency beliefs, for instance. But also, as we look at our history, many of us did not have an experience of being protected as a child. And some of us had the experience of physical and other kinds of abuse. Others of us had more of an emotional abandonment. Many of us were shamed when something went wrong. And when we were being hurt, we knew that we couldn't turn to our parents or adults for help. That's what we're looking at today, partly. And that's something that we really need to be tender with ourselves around. If we didn't know that we deserve to be protected, we probably haven't protected ourselves very well, and we probably didn't protect our children very well. And that was certainly something that happened with me as a child. I wasn't protected. I think my parents didn't really know that that was a function of a parent. I had a safe, reliable home, good food security, housing security. There was nobody who was alcoholic or addicted in my family. It was very stable in that way. And yet something went really wrong with myself and all of my siblings. And it wasn't something that a social worker would have seen if they'd come in to do an assessment because everything was fine. And yet we weren't parented. And then I could really see how in my own situation, I didn't know and couldn't see what was going on with my child and didn't know to protect him. That's something that let's sit with for a moment. That's something that we didn't know and may be shaming ourselves for and may have shamed ourselves for a long time. Whether it was that we have those feelings or an inner critic saying, you should have protected yourself, you should not have gotten in that car, you should have not stayed in that relationship, those kinds of things. Or a feeling of, there's something really wrong with me. Let's acknowledge that at the beginning, that this is really deep. It's hard stuff to look at. And we all want to be protected. We all want to be included. There's a biological drive for that. This is not something that's optional. We need food and shelter, and we need to be included, be protected. The hard reality is that often we're not protected in certain relationships the way we should. I use that word, even though it's a word that applies and doesn't really apply in many ways. But truthfully, children and adults deserve to be in relationships with people who are not hurting them and people who see them and who can form a protective community. And that's something that we're working with and that we're working towards. Let's look at that and feel that in our body for a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths. Whether we see this when we're 8 years old or 80 years old, we can see it now. We're adults now. And now we know more about how this works. We know more about deserving protection. And if we have core deficiency beliefs that make us believe we don't deserve to be protected, that's something we can work with. We can sit with our own system right now and just notice, what is it I feel inside? Let's come back into regulation if we're out of regulation. Notice the sensations in your body. Notice space around those sensations. If there's something intense, you could hold your own hand, feel the support of that, the warmth. You could look around the room, look for 5 things that are red or 5 things you can see, name them out loud. You could shake it off. Do something to make sure that you're here, you're present, you're aware that you're looking at something that could be quite difficult. Bring to mind a situation, something specific. And we're not going to go really into that quite deeply in the moment, but just to bring to mind either it's an ongoing experience with the same people or maybe it's a repeating pattern. If you generally go into a freeze or a fawning response, if you generally go into a fight response, what's your usual? So in this situation, there's a couple here on the slide. And the guy is kind of yelling at or being mad at the woman, and she's rolling her eyes. So she's got some kind of a fight response going on there. She's not appreciating what he's saying, let's say. Another one with the looks like a mother in law scolding her son in law, perhaps. When you bring to mind something like that, where you are feeling shamed or pressured, notice that it's happened to all of us many, many, many times. And what are the thoughts and images? What are the sensations as you look at that? And in particular, is this an ongoing pattern? It would be quite unusual if it wasn't. But once we get into a pattern of something going on, we'll often continue the pattern of going into a fight response, flight, we just kind of mentally leave. We might fawn to try and get them on our side. Notice your breath. Notice your body. Let yourself be here in this moment. We're not actually being scolded or shamed. We're doing an inquiry. We're looking to see. Now remember a time when someone had your back. And this picture here of Xena, the warrior princess. I don't know how many of you watched that show, but I thought it was a great show. I watched it quite a bit when I was younger. She was a protector, very strong, physically brave, and she protected people who couldn't protect themselves. And there's so many people who we have more of a mutual relationship with. Think about a friend, a colleague, a family person, someone who really has your back. And think of something really specific. They offer you emotional support. They don't shame you or pressure you. They defend you, and they defend your right to protect yourself. They're there to listen. They don't harangue you with what you should do, but they might help you see some of your options. Bring that to mind. Notice also what that feels like in your body. So this is mutual. We know how to have each other's back. Oftentimes we wish we had more of that than what we actually have. And we're also really working with having our own back. So not allowing the inner critic to take over, for instance. If we switch over to when someone swoops in to protect us, usually there's relief at the beginning, of course, that we're not on our own, that we have someone who cares about us, who wants us to be safe. And then it often gets a little bit muddier. Is it the right kind of help? Do they do things for us that we actually can do ourselves? What they do, does it make us feel less powerful, less agency? Or does it make us feel like, oh, I'm hopeless. I always have to rely on this person. I better not do anything to upset them. I want them to continue. I can't afford for them to leave. What does it cost us when we're in a relationship and in a situation like that? And again, as you're looking at that, notice your body, notice your breath. What do you feel like in your body right now? Stay regulated, eyes open, look around the room, do what you need to stay here, to not be shaming yourself. I've had many, many situations where I've been in those kinds of relationships. Less so now, because I know what they look like and I know what to watch for. And I know that I don't want to make those kinds of bargains for the most part. So look and see. And this is so nuanced. It really depends on the situation. Sometimes we make a bargain like that and we know the cost and we accept it because that's what we need to do at the time. And other times we don't. Deep breath. All right, let's do a little bit of an inquiry. So go more deeply into some of what we were just looking at or working with. I can cultivate the courage to really see. And it's my job to protect myself emotionally. That doesn't mean it's only my job. We can still make alliances, friendships, support each other. And at the end of the day, as an adult, I need to protect myself and I need to see clearly. And in your history, you might have a very fierce inner protector. And this might be something that's like, well, of course, who else is going to do that? I need to do that. And I really see with clarity, some people have a real superpower around that. They can really look at situations and relationships and see what the dynamics are. And for other people, it might be, I've been a bit hesitant about that. I haven't really done that. When we do look for help, can we do that in a way that we maintain our present moment awareness, our groundedness? We can co regulate with somebody. Sometimes we don't see as clearly, and somebody else could help us open that up a little bit more. But could we do that and stay in our own integrity and not give our power away to them? And as you're looking at this, specific things might be coming to mind. That's often really helpful, is to think about a certain person, a certain situation now or in the past. And whether you're dealing with something you're in right now or from the past, you could look at it through that lens of, okay, I can see clearly. I have a good idea of what's actually going on. What resources do I need? And can I stand up for myself? What would help me? I don't have to do this on my own. And I want to be careful not to give my power away or to get into a power down situation where somebody else is over top. They're helping me. That's not really going to be helpful in the long term. How can I build my own strength and agency in this situation? What could I do to do that? Let yourself feel that. Let yourself see that. What might you say? Actually, what I need from you right now is to, whatever that might be. Maybe standing up for yourself involves this person who's trying to help. Don't call me baby. It makes me feel like you think I'm stupid or something. Whatever that might be for you. And let's give that a couple of minutes. Maintain awareness in your body. Regulate through your body, your breath. I can stand up for myself with this person. I can resource myself and I can stand up. I don't have to give my power away. Really notice if you're shaming yourself. It's not okay to shame ourselves for what we didn't know in the past. See if you could bring some compassion to yourself. Now that we know, we could work with this in a bit of a different way. We didn't know before, and we're seeing more clearly now. Another minute or so. If you want, you could visualize yourself saying the words or taking a different type of action. Or maybe it would be more productive right now to attune with your inner self, form a bond of connection to overcome the shaming. I can gather appropriate help and stand up for myself. Notice how that feels. And then come out of the inquiry, look around the room, open your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, do something to shift gears. Notice how that feels.